A new front opening on the war in Iran right here at home. Pro-Iran hackers targeted the company Stryker, a maker of medical devices. They make everything from defibrillators to joint implants to hospital beds. That company says that disruptions are expected to continue for an undetermined period of time. We're back with Michael Feinberg, Mark Mazzetti, Alex Wagner is with me here at the table. Michael Feinberg, let me start with you. Wall Street Journal reported on this pretty unequivocally as an Iran associated and inspired cyber attack. Tell me just the state of our defenses and how we would even know in the earliest phases that a cyber attack came from Iran.
So that really gets into sources and methods that I can't really speak to. What I can say is that it is a matter of public record that Iran, despite its relatively small size as a nation and its lack of great power status compared to, say, Russia or China, is remarkably adept at computer network intrusions and computer network exploitation. They have, as has been publicly reported, gotten into not just companies and corporations' accounts like we're seeing in the Wall Street Journal reporting, but also into the accounts of high-ranking U.S. officials. They are not to be underestimated within this threat sphere. And once again, this is the sort of thing that was completely foreseeable 2 weeks ago when we began our attacks on Iran. And once again, it's the sort of thing for which the infrastructure that the United States had a year and a half ago for stopping these sort of attacks has been gutted. CISA, DHS's main arm for cybersecurity, was essentially sold for parts because its former head had the temerity to say that the 2020 election was not stolen. So, for blatantly political reasons of revenge, there is an entire agency devoted to stopping this sort of thing that functionally does not exist anymore.
Big sigh. Mark Mazzetti, let me use that as a segue to your reporting about the Trump administration's miscalculation about how Iran would respond to the U.S.-Israeli strikes. Quote, inside the administration, some officials are growing pessimistic about the lack of a clear strategy to finish the war, but they have been careful not to express that directly to the president, who has repeatedly declared that the military operation is a complete success. Trump has laid out maximalist goals, like insisting that Iran name a leader who will submit to him, while Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth have described narrower and more tactical objectives that could provide an off-ramp in the near term. Your thoughts about how much of a war footing the government, the private sector, the counter-terror institutions were on, if at all? It would appear they were not at all, but maybe I'm missing something.
Well, I mean, there's no question that it was the haphazard path to war and one without any, at least public preparation of the country for what a war might entail. And also, despite what we saw of the Pentagon building up military force in the Middle East, the Persian Gulf area, it's not clear just how much extra preparation was done inside other parts of the U.S. government to deal with the other threats, the other types of threats that Iran can pose. As we've seen in the last, well, just this week alone, right? Iran is, what it doesn't have militarily to go head-to-head with the United States or Israel, it has plenty of other ways to use leverage to inflict pain. And that can be economic pain, as we're seeing, right, in the Strait of Hormuz. It is pain in the cyber realm, as Michael was just talking about. They are very adept at hitting targets, financial institutions, others, to cause other kinds of economic pain. And, of course, physical pain, the type of attacks that we're seeing not only on civilian areas, but also on American military bases. So this is how Iran can get its leverage and and get a war to conclude on its terms. So this was all the preparation that should have happened in the days before the war, not just with military preparation, but I think it's not really clear that that was done, in part because, even up to the last minute, it was unclear whether there was going to be a war and whether there was going to be a diplomatic path. And so there was no groundwork laid to sort of mitigate some of the threats that I think we're seeing now.
It's an incredible picture coming into focus. Let me read you one more piece of reporting on what Mark Mazzetti is talking about. This is from Reuters. U.S. intelligence says Iran government is not at risk of collapse.
Yeah.
Quote, U.S. intelligence indicates that Iran's leadership is still largely intact and not at risk of collapse anytime soon after nearly 2 weeks of relentless U.S. and Israeli bombardment. That's according to 3 sources. A multitude of intelligence reports provide consistent analysis that the regime is not in danger of collapse and, quote, retains control of the Iranian public. To Mark Mazzetti's point, Trump described, quote, complete surrender. I think Caroline Leavitt doubled down on that yesterday. Yeah. They have not laid out any goals in their 7 or 8 rationales that include leaving the government completely intact.
And in complete control of the Iranian public, which the president has been explicitly encouraging to rise up to no end. I mean, it's a complete fail. The uranium enrichment, Iran's ability to get a nuclear weapon, they haven't gone after one of their most important storehouses for that Pickaxe Mountain. I just learned about this today, which is 300 feet underground. The explicit goals, insofar as any have been laid out by this administration, they have failed to deliver in spectacular fashion. All they've created is chaos and carnage and what could be another Gulf War, the beginning of World War III. I have no idea, with no thought towards the preservation of any stability in the region, no thought towards the Americans who are caught in the region, and no thought towards the domestic implications and our security as a country. I mean, it is a catastrophe of moral, economic, and political proportion.